There are definitely more people here at Computex this year than last year, but the vibe is definitely apocalyptic. Travel expenses for Computex 2026 have been covered by Synology. Thanks, Synology. At Gigabyte, it's all AI and all AI stuff. They are deploying data centers in shipping containers. It's a new product. It's like, oh, you have literally nothing. It's like, we can do water cooling directly from a shipping container, which is nice to see. They also had a model of a deployment that they're working on in Korea. And the model is a many floor data center with a parking structure underneath and cooling towers and cooling equipment on the roof of the building. It's also pretty easy to see the breakdown here between how fast NVIDIA is moving with their infrastructure and also Open Compute. I mean, historically, Open Compute has pushed a lot of the enterprise infrastructure. Open Compute has their own rack standard, and they make certain demands about how the equipment is and the integration. Like, Open Compute is its own force of nature as opposed to standard rack equipment. But then NVIDIA and their acceleration over the last couple of years is completely displacing and supplanting what historically Open Compute has done. And then over on the other side, you have AMD Helios. We can see real AMD Helios racks here at this Computex. I think they're almost ready or pretty close to ready for Helios. And Helios is a whole other, it's like a double wide OCP Open Compute type rack standard. And so you can really see how much of the industry is settling down into these standard deployment platforms. Nobody really wants to deploy individual servers anymore. They want to deliver things at rack, like truly rack scale, but also containerization and also standardization so that you get 1,000 GPUs or that you get 1,000 nodes all in one go. That is the scale that we're dealing with, and that's the scale that things are moving at. But I never would have imagined that the rate at which innovation is happening with physical infrastructure on the NVIDIA side is outstripping how fast even the Open Compute companies can keep up. I'm really excited about this because someday we will have this technology in regular cooling. This is 3D printed copper, 3D printed displacement copper cooling. Fabricate Labs and Gigabyte partnered. This is part of the cold plate design for cooling. And so eventually, hopefully sooner rather than later, this will come to enthusiast computing. But for now, this is keeping Vera Rubin cool. I saw it here at the Gigabyte booth because, AI is completely taken over everything. It's fine. This is the R1 C7 KO8. There's 40 nodes in this 1U. 40 Core Ultra 7 258Vs. It's got the Intel Arc 140V GPU and integrated 32 gigs of LPDDR5. This is insane x86 density in a 1U. So there's 40 of those modules in this chassis. Two 3,200 watt power supplies. Ultra low power 258V. So the 5 OCP3 slots at the back here service 2 nodes each. Yeah, you can get a network card that is designed with interfaces that are physically attached to multiple hosts. So here's a block diagram of the OCP connections. This is OCP multi-host NICs. Each OCP connection is physically connected to more than one node. So you've got 3 OCP NICs servicing 10 nodes. In case you ever wondered what a 256 gig MRDIMM looks like, Micron was showing one here. That is 256 gigabytes of memory on a single DIMM. One thing that almost flew under the radar at Gigabyte's booth was the new WRX 90 AI tops. Now the TRX 50 AI tops we've reviewed. You can put 4 GPUs, that's great. The WRX 90 AI tops has 2 built-in 8-lane MCIO connectors that are designed to go to, yes, even more PCIe slots. So you could run 9 GPUs on this thing, or 8 GPUs and then some PCIe add-in devices. I decided to stop off and visit my friends at G.Skill. I figured it would be really bad, but it was, but they're putting on a good look, a good show. They were still doing their overclocking competition, lots of liquid nitrogen everywhere. The custom builds, they had all new custom builds, or at least I don't remember them. Except maybe the one that is liquid nitrogen, the one that's maintaining, is pooping liquid nitrogen continuously. That's maintaining the CPU at minus 90 degrees C. So yeah, that's quite an overclock. The G.Skill is still testing and qualifying memory. So the memory that they have robbed us of is JetX standard memory that's over 10,000 mega transfers. They had that on display here. And it's JEDEC standards, so the secondary timings are not amazing, but G.Skill is still qualifying and testing those. And they do have kits available, RDIMMs, 256, 384, 512, 768, up to 96 gigabytes per DIMM. So you can still buy those. They're just not selling a lot of those to people that are building workstations. They are also showing off ECC CU DIMMs on the W880 motherboards with the 270K plus. And this is ECC CU DIMM. ECC CU DIMMs on the Intel platform? Yep. It's an option, the W880 Ace. I don't even have that yet. So Intel's kind of loosening things here. It follows previous generations where if you want ECC memory, it goes with the motherboard, not the CPU. So you can run ECC memory on a 270K plus if you're on the W880 motherboard. And I don't even have a W880 motherboard. It's a tragedy. But ECC CU DIMMs I did not have on my radar, but it was nice to learn about that from G.Skill and see what they had going on there. So there's options, but I hadn't quite realized how far things had come in DDR5 manufacturing just because of the unavailability of everything. So 7666 and 8000 and 8533 and 9000 and like 10666. There's a lot of options for insanely fast DDR5, and the JEDEC standard being over 10,000 is that's really exciting because fast memory is where it's at for a lot of modern applications. It's fun and interesting because I've never seen ASRock rack have this much floor space, and yet ASRock has very little space. I think we know why. Check out this concept design RX 9070. It's another Phantom Gaming design, but this is what the parts shortage has robbed you of. They're not going to make this. This is just a one-off for the show, basically. The pipe cleaner maybe for next generation hardware, maybe something special because it is the 10th anniversary of Tai Chi, but there's no parts. There's a shortage. You can't make good stuff, but you got to make good stuff for the show. 10 years of Tai Chi. The rest of the decade. To Z790 and B650. Ooh, the Tai Chi 360 Hollow. Coming soon. Now, apparently, I guess they tell me from here at Computex, everybody is building an AI workstation. And they're building AI workstations from the affordable, let's call them, GPUs from Intel and AMD. And so one of the most popular things on Twitter that I posted was the one slot R9600 from AMD, 32 gigs of VRAM and a single slot passive cooler. Now, you still need a lot of active airflow in a server. It's designed for server use. But something like this on a high-density slot motherboard or server, yeah, this could be something. Intel also has a version of this with the B60 here at the ASRock booth, and they were showing off ASRock Claw. So ASRock's getting in on the claw game. They had some pretty interesting demos. They also had a really impressive soccer demo. There should be a lot of B-roll of the soccer demo. The soccer demo is built by a local company. It's not open source, but ASRock worked with the local company, and it's doing real-time video analysis of soccer games and how people are playing. It's honestly a very impressive piece of software, and it's like, oh, what's the team behind this? And it's just a few people and AI putting something like this together, and it was genuinely a very impressive thing. It's meant for high schools and college league type things to help them improve their football game, or soccer as we like to call it in the US. ASRock power supplies were also updated for this Computex. We saw last year there was a couple that had temperature sensors. Well, now that 12V2 connector, that pesky connector, you can do temperature sensing all the time in a whole bunch of different models of PSU. They also had 240 volt PSUs up to 3,000 watts. Because again, apparently everybody is building their AI workstation. Woo! So there's an aspect of Computex this year that I hadn't considered, which is the sales demo, or the technical sales demo. With AI, it is exceptionally easy to put together a dashboard, a really slick-looking dashboard that conveys your ideas. And it might even be coherent, but it makes it really hard to tell the difference between a finished product, something that somebody has invested in, and something that's made out of paper mache and cardboard. And there's a lot of paper mache and cardboard here that was very obviously made by, AI or an OpenClaw, somebody's agent. It's just like, here's a description of this thing that I wish would exist, and then you start pushing on it, and it falls apart a little bit. There's a lot of that. There's more of that here than I have ever seen. Like, usually, there are companies at Computex that are very optimistic about their product and what it can do. And they have really slick demos, but now the level of effort to put together a really slick demo is way less than it has ever been. And so it's kind of wild. At the same time, some aspects of this does feel a little bit like the future, especially some of the point of sale, interactive kiosk type things where it's like, oh, this is the future of your experience. You can just talk to an agent and figure it out. But at the same time, a little bit of a lie there, a little bit of a false promise, I think, because it's not going to work that way when the rubber meets the road. But I could be wrong. But there are a lot of slick demos here. A new AI startup, a slop up. Should call that a slop up for sure. We're going to make it. We've got hopes, vibes, and a booth at Computex, and a really long and complicated OpenClaw setup. I mean, I'm really optimistic on all this stuff for the future, but like even that, for me, it's like, ooh, it's not good. It's not good at all. But where do they get the money to do that? And you guys know how optimistic I am about AI and our AI future. It's like the invention of electricity. And yeah, we do have a few Edison types running around electrocuting elephants, but I'm pretty optimistic about AI. The thing that I really didn't expect here is that there's a lot of people that have paid a lot of money for booths that are just like AI startups. They don't really have a product. They just vibe coded the entire booth. And I guess they're hoping for investment or something like that. I don't know. But that's also displaced a lot of companies that would be here traditionally. Companies like Silverstone and others. So I'm literally going around the corner to a cafe to just hang out with Silverstone and see what they got going. This is the WS381. Now, I just did the video on the WS380. This is the updated 381. It has 3 5.25 inch bays and a little bit updated internal design. This is a standard motherboard. The motherboard is not, this is the same ASRock motherboard that I used in the other one, but look, 2, 4, 6, 8 GPUs, but you've got one slot between them. How did they do that? Well, these 3 are in the motherboard, and this one is on an MCIO expansion card in the bottom. And so this is connected via, these cables, and that's the difference. This is actually an industry standard, CRPS, dual redundant power supplies, 2,500 watts today, 3,200 watts tomorrow. Modular dual redundant power supplies, compatible with the WS381X. So this is the Alta T2 workstation case from Silverstone, pre-installed wheels. If you've been following the channel for a long time, you know that I've 3D printed adapters for other tower cases. This one has them built right in. Heavy duty carry handle at the top. You got lots of options for cooling. 11 expansion bays at the back. You can get really creative with how you're mounting multiple GPUs. This is probably the only workstation case I've seen that could realistically tolerate 8 GPUs. This is the Alta T1. This is the smaller version, but it also comes with wheels, and it is a single piece of aluminum around the edge. So it is very, very sturdy. This is an 8 expansion slot case, so you can build a pretty reasonable high-end workstation. 4 GPUs here would certainly be no problem at all. And you got tons of cooling. Radiator, what is that?
420.
420?
One here, second one here, third one up here.
This is room for 3 420 millimeter radiators. So hopefully this will be something. If this is something you're interested in, definitely hit me up in the comments below and let me know what sort of a workstation you'd like to see. Threadripper, dual Epic, Xeon, something. Even dual power supplies looks like. Nice. So when you've got a small form factor power supply like this, how often would you say the RMA is because of an insect? An insect crawls in, gets between the PCB and the case and shorts it out. It happens enough that Silverstone is moving to conformal coatings. So this PCB has been coated with non-conductor, and so like an insect in here is not going to short something out and cause a problem with the power supply because this has all been insulated, especially the small form factor, high power density power supplies. Silverstone also has their modular redundant power supplies. Now these have the built-in cables. The new models are going to have the breakout so that you can customize the cable configuration. But in both 2000, like 2000 plus 2000, and 2400, 2400 plus 2400. The really cool thing about the design here is that it is an active design in these modules. So both 2,000 watt power supplies will share the load until one of them dies. Now, an individual power supply can handle the full 2,000 watt load, but it's nice that you're only running each power supply at half, because there are heat production and efficiency gains from that. Plus you get a little bit better power supply longevity by sharing the load. But full redundancy here in a standard connector and standard ATX plug on the other side. But full modular is coming soon. These are all the fun accessory 1U coolers. Like if you're going to build something around the SM100 in the video that I showed, and you've got some options now for blower style coolers. And so like this will work great for cooling, your Intel Xeon, or you want to do your Threadripper or your EPYC CPU. You've got a 1U option. Now you got to pay attention to the wattage. You can't just use an arbitrary CPU on this. You got to look at it and say, what is it rated for? And in this case, it's 200 watts. In this particular case for this one, it's 200 watts. In this one is 170 watts. So you've got some different options for what you want to do. AM5, 65 watt. This is your 1U 65 watt option. Should have gone with a blower style for that one too, but it's fine. I have this back at the office already. Tony saw what I did with the unholy DDR5 memory cooling. Tony was helping me out with the DDR5 memory testing, where we did our own 3D printed bracket that goes in the screw holes. They have a much better, more polished version of the same kind of thing that'll work great with the XE360 or the XE420. This is the XE420. I've also got the Hellstone 360 back at the office waiting for me. This is about 90% of the cooling performance of an XE360, but, well, it's like the XE, it's like 420. About 90% of the cooling capability of the XE360, but in a much more affordable package, and still, full copper coverage. So if you're thinking about building a Threadripper, you might consider this AIO. And Silverstone has options for more cooling. If you need to cool your DDR5 memory, you can stack these little fans and drop a lot of memory around this. You can drop a lot of airflow around the CPU socket with this type of fan, and even add a second one if you want. Silverstone was also showing a 20 gigabit, that's a double-sided 10 gig, with a camera mount. This is, things like the Lumix cameras, like my Lumix camera can do a higher bit rate if you write to USB because the micro SD is too slow. And so this is an option that can screw directly into the camera handle or the camera itself, but for USB-C. So this is an interesting option. And the whole thing is aluminum heatsink. Silverstone also has an 8-bay M.2 holder. So you install the M.2 and there's a little plastic peg that will hold the M.2 in place. The end of the M.2 sticks out the end, so there's no electrical connection here. But this is all heatsink, so that the M.2 is going to get appropriate cooling from a couple of fans at the back. And then they have the slim SAS style connectors, 4 lanes. So you've got 8 M.2, you got 8 connections here that can be routed into your motherboard however you want, PCIe expansion, or you could go into a SAS controller that's a tri-mode adapter, or whatever would work for your particular application. Looks like Silverstone's also adding a bunch of external disk shelves. So this disk enclosure is a little special, the TS434U 40G. It's based around the ASMedia 2464 PDX. It supports NVMe as well as SATA, and it's a 40 gig USB 4 interface in the back. So it's a 12 volt power brick plus USB 4, and you can run 4 mechanical hard drives or 4 U.2. That's 1 lane per drive, and you're limited to 40 gigabits, so about 4 gigabytes per second. But it's a pretty unique product. And finally, this is the WS520R. Also with the wheels, which I really like, but this looks more like custom loop enthusiast cooling.
So you can put that in this 5U chassis. So we have the RM51 designed for air cooling, RM52 for dual radiator, RM53 with additional 5¼ inch dry bay, and this one's for those that want to have their own custom liquid cooling. Plus they 2 more 5¼ as well. And
so it does have vertical 5¼ inch bays on the front. Plus you got all this cooling and the nice stylish design. So the 12R, the 16R, or the 24R, it's got the Ryzen 7 Pro, 16 gigs of ECC DDR5, max 192 gigs, 2 10 gig interfaces, a single 2280 M.2, plus you got 1 Gen 5x8 with an X8 link, and 1 Gen 5x4 with an X4 link. So you get some pretty good expansion options and a 5-year warranty. There's also the SuperMicro Gen 2, which is really just a SAS expansion bay, and that is SAS in, SAS out. This is the back of our systems that are AM5. Look, they're only 550 watts. Look. Because the magic of AM5, not even AM5, that's the magic of Ryzen, so power sippy. The new generation of hardware has a fun trick up its sleeve, and that is USB 4/Thunderbolt networking. Yeah, the Mac people are definitely going to like that, but it's perfectly usable in Windows too. That means you've got a 20 gig network interface through a USB-C connection. Finally, the promise of USB-C, finally. I think ASUSTOR is the first company to do this, so that's exciting. And if your NAS has a lot of CPU horsepower, you can run your claw right onto NAS, which, you know, you got to have the appropriate sandboxing, but it's pretty good. So this is going to be the FS812X1. This is actually a prototype, but this is an upgrade of the all-flash NAS. It's got dual Realtek 10 gig, upgradable SODIMMs, and that's a lot more CPU horsepower. So, and yeah, you can run ECC. It's officially supported because it's embedded Ryzen. The other addition to this new model is HDMI, because the embedded Ryzen CPU also supports HDMI, and that's new for this model. I also decided to stop by and see what kind of shenanigans Supermicro is getting up to. They're going to cause some more international incidents? No, I'm here primarily to look at the AMD Helios platform. Helios is here, and Supermicro had a fully kitted out Helios rack. Look at this, the enormity of this. This is a double wide OCP. Like, this is, again, AMD moving a little ahead of how fast Open Compute can keep up as well. Again, it's all about the form factor. Helios, double width racks. This is, every compute tray is a ridiculous amount of computational horsepower on the CPU and the GPU side. Memory expansion, like, there wasn't physically room to do it any other way, so you had to expand. High performance workstation, Threadripper dual GPU. I imagine you guys also have 4 GPU solutions. I want 4 R9700s.
We do, but you have 2 U form factor actually. No, not this guy. This is an Intel box.
Oh, okay.
I want to say that in front of Wendell. But yeah, so this is our brand new Intel Xeon 6 workstation-based box, supporting up to 4 GPUs. Plus, it has room to accommodate additional network card and array cards. Also, we have 8 NVMe hard swap time in the front. And,
oh, nice.
Yeah. Also, you know, plenty of room for storage, for GPUs, and of course for a big CPU, right?
Dual RTX 6000s.
Correct. We also support up to 4 of the double width max queues on the system. Redundant power supplies and dual time on board.
Very nice. Yeah, the form factor, like 128 gigs and beyond of VRAM at your desk is definitely where we're heading into 2027, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. Everything for agentic AI, for LLM, or for just traditional workstation workloads.
Yeah.
This is the beast.
Yeah. So this is Panther Lake in a portable form factor, but it's a client system, but it's also industrial. It's a metal case. At the rear I/O, it'll manage 3 displays, HDMI. You have 2 DisplayPort, alt mode via USB-C. Those are actually Thunderbolt 4, and then another Type-C. Built-in networking, 12 volts DC input, and built-in wireless. And so this is the Core Ultra Series 3, 2 DDR5 DIMM slots, but it's still an industrial design, even though it's based on Panther Lake. And it really, you can use Edge AI XE3 graphics because Panther Lake. So it's pretty awesome. Good? Yeah, it's just like, it's like fancy running into you again here. This is GB300, but this is actually shipping now. HBM3E, you got it configured with the RTX 4000, and you got the liquid cooling set up. But the most exciting thing is now shipping.
Yeah, so this is our Super AI station. You might have heard of the DGX station GB300. This is the Supermicro variant of that. It's going to be shipping now very, very soon, and Windows is coming to it. On launch, you'll have Ubuntu pre-installed, but as NVIDIA announced, we're having Windows.
Windows on ARM.
Right, exactly.
And of course, SK Hynix. SK Hynix had one of the smallest booths here, but it is one of the most critically important companies for our relatively fragile, entirely AI-dependent economy. Please don't screw up my retirement 401k. Please don't screw up my retirement 401k. Nervous laughter. I'm in danger. This is SK Hynix. This is what the HBM looks like at 460,000 times scaled up.
So that is what this is.
They had this explainer to help explain HBM3 and HBM4 and what that looks like from a manufacturing process, and a blown up version that was 465,000 times larger than the regular version. But I thought one of the other cool things they had was this, a 256 gigabyte DIMM. Now, we're never going to be able to afford this, 5-10 years, something like that. But this is an interesting contrast because this is a 3D stacked DIMM. Now, remember from Gigabyte's booth, they also had a 256 gigabyte DIMM. Both of these DIMMs have 4 ranks, but the Gigabyte DIMM is 4 rows of chips. With 3D die stacking, you package multiple sets of memory in one physical package. So our 256 gig DIMM here at SK Hynix is physically much smaller, and the electrical signal is actually much higher integrity in this configuration. This is 3D stacked DIMM, so you see 3DS DIMM support. This is what this is. This is what it looks like physically. Neat. It's like going to a museum. It's like you're never going to own a T-Rex. I know. I also wanted to stop by ASUS and see what they've got going on. The new tandem OLED displays are kind of changing the game for text clarity and sharpness and that sort of stuff on OLED. And ASRock had a really impressive display. It's hard to convey that through YouTube, but there you go. They also had some retro cool stuff, like a retro cool AM5 motherboard with the retro cool colors. 20th anniversary, copper heatsinks, blue expansion slots. Yeah, it's modeled after the 2006, what is that, AM3? Crosshair 2006 anniversary edition from 2026 with 2026 technology, but it looks like it's from 2006, although it has some upgraded heat sinks, substantially upgraded heat sinks, because we only needed the one small heat pipe 20 years ago. That's going to be it for this one for Computex. Computex this year, definitely a little bittersweet. I'm positive on what the science of AI can bring to humanity, but I'm not super positive on some of the people in charge. We've definitely got the Edison electrocuting elephants vibe going on with the new technology. And there, you can mentally separate both of those. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it is super depressing seeing old guard, perfectly reasonably successful companies being displaced out of the show halls by companies that don't have a real product. That's the problem. And that's something we should call out everywhere we see it. But that's maybe a conversation for a different day. This is Computex 2026. I'm one of this Level 1 Techs. If you have any questions or I miss anything, or you just want to berate me, please do that in the forum, or you can engage below. I don't know. All right, I'm signing out, and I'll see you in the forum.